think about you.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another StoryTime Spotlight. For this week's episode, we have none other than Dashi. So, the first question I always start off with is, where did you get the artist name from?
Well, first of all, I just want to say thanks for having me, Matt, man. I really appreciate it. You know how it goes.
Yeah.
Um, so the name Dashi, like, there's not a crazy story to it. Like, when I first was looking for a name, I had this like really cringy name, and someone brought up like the point to me that, yo, if you saw your old name on a lineup, would you go and see them? And I was like, probably not, to be honest, you know.
Right.
But I was like super young when I made it, so you live and you learn kind of thing.
Yeah.
But basically, like, I was really into speed house at the time. Whenever I was, exploring like the house music world, and
Absolutely.
I felt like I wanted to make speed house when I first started, and I had like 50 different variations of like different names that meant like the word fast, and Dash really stuck out to me, and I was just like, hey, how do I make this unique? So I just put an I on the end, and the rest is history, you know?
Dude, it's so simple and so perfect at the same time. And for the people that are watching and listening, we got to chat it up before this interview. And man, am I excited for you guys to get to know this warm-hearted, open arm person. And this guy is going to be someone that you need to keep an eye out for. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm so excited for this one. So, where exactly, for the people who don't know where you're based out of, tell the people where you're based out of.
So I am currently based out of Ottawa, Ontario, in Canada.
Canada,
Like
Canada.
like
Okay,
Canada's capital, baby.
okay, there we go. So, what are some things that you do in Canada besides producing?
Well, I like to spend my weekends going to local shows, gotta support the homies. But
Yeah,
if you come to Canada, you gotta try poutine, you gotta try beaver tails. Those are some nice Canadian foods that I highly recommend to everyone.
yeah,
We
staples.
definitely have no igloos here. No polar bears in Ottawa, but
Thank you for clarifying that. This whole time I was thinking polar bears, igloos, all of that. Man.
no, it's crazy though. When I used to like play video games, people used to straight up ask me that. They're like, "Yo, do you have polar bears and igloos up there?" It's like, no, we don't. We don't.
Yeah, that is hilarious. I think that's the first time I've heard that. All right. So we've been blessed at StoryTime Records to not only release Thirsty in 2022, and now you're releasing your first release of 2023, and that track is called Every Day. Those two tracks being very different, but both certified slappers. Tell me the inspiration behind both of those tracks.
All right. Well, thirsty at the time is when I discovered No Thanks. Shout out No Thanks. Like I remember hearing their music like 808 for the first time, and I was like, yo, these guys are crazy.
Oh, for sure.
This sound that these guys have is like unreal. So Thirsty was really like inspired by the boys at No Thanks and like that style of music. Um every day, man, it's that one. I kind of just took a vocal that
There you go.
I found, and I just kind of went with it and went with the punches. And it's low key a cringe song I wrote for my girlfriend, but I love her, so sometimes you just gotta do the nice things for your partner.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. But if you listen to both of these tracks, like they both have such a solid backbeat, and like we discussed this before we hopped on, but before you sent me Thirsty, you sent me a demo or two beforehand, and then you sent me Thirsty, and Thirsty, I was like, oh, it's so catchy, and I love it. And I was mentioned to you, I've been playing that track out in any set that I've been able to play, and it's just been going off. Now, I'm even more excited for every day because you've sent me some emails that you sent out to certain artists and them giving you good feedback on this. And these are some big names in the industry, and they're like, oh yeah, this is a solid track. So it's like every day I'm super excited and happy to have you re-release with us and get this bad boy out on StoryTime Records. It's going to be a great banging record all throughout, not only spring, summer, and then some, so it is what it is. And thank you, my guy, for sending another track in with us. I'm so excited for this one.
Man, thank you for having me again, man. It's always an
Yeah,
honor to be back with the Storytime fam.
let's go. So playing club shows and playing festival stages, what's the preparation difference between the two?
That's a very, very, very good question. So when I'm doing a festival set and I'm preparing it, I kind of want to have like, you know, different like parts of the songs that have like a lot of tension, or like a lot of break going into like a tension of a build up, to kind of like come down from the drop and then bring it right back up and go hard again. I think versus a club setting and a festival setting, I think the big difference in my sets, like between the two, is that at the club I'm going like I'm not even really taking a small break. I'm just keeping the flow going. And I find it with my festival sets, it's more like once the drop ends, I'm going into like a breakdown of another song. I think
Got
those are like the two differences in my club sets versus my festival sets, to give it that more of like a festival feeling, to ramp it right back up and go hard again.
Right, yeah. So when attending these festivals, what are some essentials you bring with you?
You always got to bring Doggo on the USB. Oh no, but like, are you talking about music wise, or are you talking about like
Anything, man. Like
physically?
I know, like for like example, like if I'm going to a festival, like I'm bringing chapstick. And I'm not only bringing chapstick, like I'm also gonna have those Pedialyte little packets with me for the hydration. Are you bringing anything with you to these? Because obviously, I know you're bringing the USB, you're bringing the fire with you. Is there anything that you're like, you know what? If I'm going there, you bringing the Camelback, or you just raw dog in life, and you're like, I'm gonna get the $10 water bottle.
No, that's okay. Fair enough. Oh my god, I'm dead. That's funny. No, like when it comes to festivals, like my book bag is so boring. If I'm playing, like I'll have my laptop, because if my USBs, aren't going too hot, I want to have the laptop ready to re-export right away.
Right.
And I just bring a water bottle. When I'm there, I'm more focused on the vibes versus what's on me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's all about making the memories at the end of the day. But sometimes you got to be prepared, because some of these music festivals, like you're going into the trenches, and you're like you're coming in one way and you're coming out different. So
Big
you
time.
know,
Especially when you start going to those dubstep sets late at night. Things get a little
dude,
hectic.
oh man, they get hectic, but it's like you almost need that to like wake you up. It's just like, oh, I want that energy. I want that chaos to give me that like that
Yeah.
adrenaline boost, and like let's just go all night. Let's hit the afters, like, and everything along those lines. So when opening up for bigger artists, what are some do's and don'ts when it comes to music selection and also the energy of your set?
So obviously the big don't is to not play that artist music. I think anyone knows that, but anyone who's getting into DJing,
Yeah,
do not play that artist music.
yeah,
Um I think whenever I'm planning my set anyways, whenever I'm supporting a bigger artist, I will like go on YouTube or SoundCloud, and I'll like run through their mixes and all the different kinds of music they've released in the last year,
yeah,
because typically their sets will, base around what they've released in the last year.
yeah.
Artists take different directions every year sometimes, so you kind of just have to like prepare based off of like what their last set sounded like in the last year, what
Right,
kind of music they're releasing in the last year.
right.
And depending on your time slot, like you got to be strategic on like energy level. If you're playing support for like a tech house artist, you don't want to come in with bass house right before them. But again, if you're closing, like maybe you can come in with bass house depending on the venue and what else is on the lineup. Like there's a lot of strategy that comes into it, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But I always want to make sure I'm up to par, and you want to make the promoters as happy and as proud as you can to have you on their lineups.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, absolutely. And I 100% agree. It's about like you almost need to know how you're going to go about it. You can't just necessarily freestyle because, like, let's just say, for instance, you're opening up for artist A and you play a track that's just a banger at the moment, but artist A is like boys with that artist that you're dropping. You're almost kind of like taken away from him. Or if they have a collab with this artist and their track's going off, like, you don't want to play anything that's associated with this artist. And
that's the thing, bro. Is like you need to consider every avenue of like,
absolutely.
you know, especially if like, a lot of touring artists have like similar sets where they change like certain songs out. So like if you can catch like a set from a festival or something from their tour, like
Yeah.
you can really base your set off of like, okay, like this is the energy there's a high chance they're going for that energy that they presented that night.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
when you play support, yeah, you can just make any set you want, but at the end of the day, it's like you're playing for that person's tour, or they're just a show stop, and you want to be able to be within the lines, I guess is the
Yeah.
way I would put it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I had to do some homework myself, and do a little background on you. So from my understanding is the first major music festival you got to play at was called Festival Riverside. So explain to us the preparation and how it felt to play main stage.
Dude, that was probably
Dude.
to date one of that was probably one of my favorite weekends to date.
Yeah.
In my music career. I prepping for that, I was like super well. Just to rewind for a second, is I was told I was opening the whole festival on the Friday. So to me, I was like, oh my god, like this is my like one of my first like big gigs, and
Yeah.
I'm the first one to go up, and it's a festival. Like if people would be flooding in at like the second the doors open. So I was like, I was like looking at the lineup that day, and I was like how should I start? Is this song too hard? And for a while I was overthinking it. And then I had a conversation with my girlfriend, and I was like, what do you think I should do? And she was like, just play a Dashi set. So I just put together like a typical set I would play, and it worked out, and it went really well.
Yeah, yeah. And sometimes I feel like we go into these sets and like self-doubt ourselves. Sometimes we even over prep for it. We're just like, man, like I knew about this show coming up a couple of weeks in advance, and then you're like putting together your record box like 4 hours before the show, and you're like stressing yourself out. And it's just like I think what us as artists as we're understanding is it's like we just gotta have fun, man. Like you can't overthink it.
That's the thing, is like sometimes I forget I started this for fun, and like I started the Dashi brand just to have fun, and I get mixed up in professionalism so hard that I'm like everything needs to be perfect, like
Yeah.
absolutely perfect. But at the end of the day, like if there's like little hiccups during your set, like no
Happens.
no no one's gonna shoot you from the crowd or anything. So
Right. They're like listening, like, wait, that transition wasn't perfect. You're like, hey, you got to live a little, no one's perfect. So when you're prepping these tracks, I know that you are getting music from artists that are your friends, artists that you're looking out for. Who are some artists that we should keep an eye out for, or people that we should be paying attention to?
oh boy, this list could be very long if you wanted to be.
Let's hear it, dude. Just shoot them
um
out because you'll forget some, but then later on you're like, oh, this. But let's just hear what you got to say.
so my boy Kenny, the KNNY,
Oh, yes.
Nesso, Bundar from Ottawa, shout out Bundar, Ollie West from Ottawa.
Let's
Um,
go.
do you know Ollie?
Bro, Ollie just sent me a demo like not too long ago. So like, yes, I know. And it's funny because he just added me on Instagram, and the only common follower we had was you. I'm like, let's go. Yeah, no, I know Ollie, bro. I know Ollie. Who are some other
Oh,
artists?
that's lit. That's so awesome. Another artist like Cashew, like that dude. that dude sent me some unreleased from Mo P, and wow, this dude's setting on some fire right
Oh,
now.
I can imagine. I can imagine. I love his mommy remix, and he's just been coming out with some just
I
heat.
think I low key play that tune like every set.
You have to, like, you have to, dude. It's so fire. Who else you got?
It's
Who else you got?
Doggo, shout out Doggo. As I said, you always gotta have Doggo on the USB.
Let's go. Yes, Doggo's an OG story time dude, and he's such a rad guy. And I had the opportunity to go back to back with him here in Vegas.
That's
Actually, we did our
insane.
story time takeover at Commonwealth, so I got to go back to back with him. So yeah, he's such a cool dude and down to earth, and just like setting a different vibe for the music that he's making. So he's definitely such a cool cat. So definitely.
No, for sure.
So besides EDM, is there any other genres that you listen to?
I like old school hip hop stuff. But
Ooh,
besides that, like I'm such a house head, and like even techno now, it's like I find myself not listening to much else right now.
right. Okay. Okay. And I feel like though when you listen to like these like hip hop tracks, you kind of like get the inspiration for like
You
these
do
house tracks, right?
these melodies and leads they have in some of these tunes. It's like, yo, like I could do this, I could do that.
The bass lines in
Oh,
these
yeah, the
hip hop
bass
tracks,
lines
it's
too.
like, dude, it is some beefy stuff, man. So you're working on music, you're playing shows. Is there any collabs that we should be looking out for in the future or any upcoming releases you got?
I got a collab with my boy Kasnowski. He's also from Canada. He's from Quebec City. Got a nice one coming with Nesso, Kenny as well.
Oh,
I have a collab with one of my boys, Blissful from Montreal. We just signed that to a dream label that I can't talk about yet, but I'm
right.
super, super,
That's
super
why we're
stoked for
keeping our
that
eyes
one.
out for it, man. That's fucking awesome.
Yeah, and my boy Dragos, we just signed to one of our tracks as well. It's like a heavy hitting bass house tune. There's a couple more in the works, but until we get a little further, there's I don't want to talk about it and then it doesn't happen.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So like let's just talk about the collaborating factor. When you're talking to your boys, are you sending stems to them? Are they sending stems to you? Is it an idea you guys are creating together in the moment? Like how does that work for people who don't understand how collaborations work? Because I think in people's mind it's like, oh, you're going over to this dude's house and you're just like sitting on the Windows PC, like, all right, your timer's up. I get 30 minutes. You know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
like
It's
that.
not like that at
So
all.
give them the rundown. Like, how does it work, man?
So yeah, basically, I'm a weird kid. I'm on FL Studios. Shout out FL Studios.
Okay. Hey, there's a tally mark, man, for all the artists that we've interviewed. There's a couple of FL, so don't knock it, man. Don't knock it until you try it.
Don't knock it till you try it. I love that. Yeah, so I'm on FL. So typically, a lot of the time, like yeah, like whenever I'm collabing with someone, especially if they're on Ableton, like I'm sending stems to them or they're sending stems to me. For those who don't know, like stems are different instruments and sounds you hear within the track. Like like a group of stems could be like a kick, a clap, a hi-hat, a snare, those kind of things.
Yeah.
Typically I'm kind of crazy and I like to create like a whole idea before I stem it out and say have fun with it.
Yeah.
um but like if I'm in person, I love collabing in person. Like I wish I could
So
just like
much better. So
I
much
wish
better.
I wish I could just like fly to like Vegas tomorrow and come collab with you.
Bro,
It's like
let's do it, bro. I'm booking your flight right now. We're looking at Frontier. We're gonna book it, man.
No, but I love collabing in person. I just think there's a lot more creative flow that happens whenever you're in
Yeah,
person. But obviously, when you have friends in like Europe, like a lot of my collabs I'm working on right now are in Europe.
yeah.
It gets to a point where you have to send stems and send them back and forth until there's a finished product.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's kind of interesting because I feel like when the first person who sends the full stems over to you, it's like it's one vibe, it's one idea. Then it gets sent to you, and you're like, oh, you're vibing out with the track, but you like twist and turn it into something different. And then now it's something way different. Then you send them, they're like, oh, what? This is what we're
That's
doing now. Let's go
that's
on to the next
that's
one.
that's why I love sending like a fully like formatted project to someone, because like when you get it back, you're like, how? It's like, how did it go from like that tech house tune to this crazy bass house tune? Like I've seen that so many times where it's like I have like a techie bass line that turns into this like crazy bass house tune with the synth over top.
Right,
And
yeah.
it's like holy cow. But when it comes to collabing, it's so interesting to see like how when different people get together, the different things we can do as two people.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know you announced a big festival that you're playing at. It's called Escapade. And kind of give us the rundown. Like, do you got jitters? Are you nervous? Like, do you have all the criteria, the wristbands? Like, what's going on in your head, my guy?
Oh man. So Escapade is a big festival in Ottawa. It's our big EDM festival. It's crazy. I got booked for it and the lineup dropped, and I start going on Twitter and I see all these like these EDM blogs like tweeting out the lineup and stuff, and I'm just sitting here
Yeah.
like, holy cow, my little name's on the bottom of that poster
Zoom in.
on like, yeah, anyways, it's crazy like to think that I've been attending that festival for the last like 3 or 4 years before COVID hit, and like once it came back after COVID, and I'm
Right.
going from that to like going onto one of those stages. It's kind of surreal to think about, and I don't think it's fully hit me yet until like we're getting up to the days of playing that this summer. But
Yeah,
it's it's a blessing. It's I've
absolutely.
I haven't been in this game for like a super long time, so I'm super blessed to have like the opportunities that get presented to me. And I've had the honors of playing support for artists that I've looked up to, like Mala. I've played support with like Cloverdale, and it's like just sitting down and thinking about it sometimes, it's like, wow.
Yeah,
I've dreamed of moments like these since I was like in high school, like
absolutely.
grade 9, and it's just like when it really happens, and you like, especially after a show, I find like I'll come home, lay down in bed, and I'm just like looking at the roof like, God damn, I just played support for this person, or God damn, I just played this show. It's
You're playing your Instagram story over and over and over, like, oh, it's so wonderful. And it's great to hear, you're stating you're like, I haven't been in the game for too long, but I'm able to achieve this success that I have, which is like should be like the morale booster for these up and coming producers, for people who are so afraid to just get their music out there. It's just like, just do it. Like, what's the point of just holding on to it, right? Because
the
if you were to sit here and holding on to your tracks, you never put anything out, you think you would be at the level you're at right now?
Definitely not. No
Eh,
way.
and you've
And
had some
and
major releases, like not only with Storytime, with Hexagon, 3000 Bass, like the list goes on. And I mean, I'm excited to hear about the collab that you got with the Dreamland. Like the list goes on, and it's just like I feel like if you're at the point where you're always self-doubting yourself, you need to just take a step back, take a deep breath, and just go with the flow and stop going against the grain. Like that's the best way I can put it.
the biggest problem I had for a very long time was a lot of self-doubt.
Hmm.
And I know anyone who's an artist goes through that, but
Oh
I
yeah.
tell you, if you take the time just to kind of say like, fuck it, and just drop the self-doubt, like you'll be blown away by what you can do and
Yeah,
in a short
absolutely.
period of time, and go to shows, go meet the people you need to meet, go meet
Network.
promoters
Yeah.
and network like crazy. That's all you need to do.
Yeah.
Like all you need to do is network and build that resume up, and eventually like good things will happen. And
Oh
I
yeah.
think the first step of it is don't self-doubt, because that's going to kill you at the end of the day.
Oh,
But
always.
I also, we all go through it. Like I still have tracks where I'm like 8 hours at my desk, and then I come back the next day and I'm like, what was I thinking? You know, like we all go through that, but
Oh yeah.
sometimes, you know, you need to have good friends around you who support you. You know, just don't be afraid to be who you want to be and really push for what you want to push for.
Yeah,
And you know, good things will happen at the end of the day, and that's what matters. You just, you know, gotta
absolutely.
you just gotta push yourself forward and go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. So to kind of wrap things up, is there anything that you would like to promote or anyone that you would like to give a shout out to?
I Okay. Well, first of all, go stream every day out on StoryTime Records, baby. Let's
Let's go.
go.
The one, the only.
Hey.
Let's go.
No, but I could sit here and shout out so many people, but everyone who's involved in my life, like I'm super thankful for all of you. Like I'm sure I could sit here and list names, like I said, for probably half an hour, but you know, the people know who they are. I'm thankful for all the support and love from my friends and my family, and I'm really stoked to see where 2023 brings me, as well as all my friends, because you know there's some crazy underground talent out there, and I think we're gonna see some underground talent really push forward this year. And again, I could toss you like a whole book of names of like people that I think are just gonna skyrocket this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I hope you guys got to get a more in-depth knowledge on our guy. My name is Matt Campbell, and thank you so much for tuning into another Storytime Spotlight with Dashi. Let's
Let's
go.
go.